Okay, we are live.
All right.
Uh,
Hello, everyone. Oh, go ahead, Melissa. Sorry.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Today is oof, uh, Spartan series day number 10, I believe. And today we have a panel. We're talking about online team presence and you and your team's brand in the virtual world. And super excited to be on this panel with Megan and Sarah. So, Megan, go ahead.
Hello. Hello. All right. Well, thanks so much for joining us today. It's a pretty cool honor to be on this panel with Melissa and Sarah. They've both been around in the FIRST community for a while. But just to give you a brief introduction of myself, I've been involved in FIRST robotics for the last 7 years. I just graduated from UC Berkeley with a bachelor's in cognitive science. I was a campus ambassador all 4 years. So I worked in the public affairs office of our campus as a student ambassador, organizing tours. And I was part of the leadership team where I helped create the infrastructure for other ambassadors and help them craft their own stories. I was also a marketing intern at Legion. I helped low income families receive telecommunication devices. So I've done a lot of good work in the community, and I'm currently searching for jobs in marketing and copywriting, but hopefully I'll be able to find something once the economy slows down. So basically, my role on this panel will be just to talk about how you craft your message and how you can use social media to do so. So I can pass it off to Sarah, who can also introduce herself.
Hi, my name is Sarah. Sorry, my camera isn't on here. We're having some internet trouble where I am. Hopefully, it comes back soon. I have been involved with FRC for 13 years now. I graduated from Macquarie University in Sydney, Australia, with a Bachelor of Engineering, and this year with a Master's in Research, both focusing on software and computing. I'm now a software engineer at Google, where I work on a research project for trusted computing platform, which is a lot of fun. It's called ARCS. You can look us up. We're on GitHub. We're open source, which means I get to talk about a lot of what I do. For 10 years, I was a mentor on 3132 before coming to 971, and I had a lot of really great experiences there, creating and crafting that brand from scratch. So I'll be talking a little bit about that today.
And I'm Melissa. I've been involved at FIRST for over almost 20 plus years now. I started in 2000 as an FLL student, and I most actively volunteer at the moment with the San Francisco and Silicon Valley regionals on the regional planning committees, and am the head referee at those regionals as well as elsewhere in FIRST. And I'm kind of an off-season mentor for 971. And when I'm not doing FIRST, the rest of my life, I'm a senior user experience researcher for Google, and have my PhD in human factors and applied cognition, and my research interests were in human computer interaction and human trust in automation. So it all sparked from robotics way back in the day, and a human robot interaction and wanting to just build robots. So just kind of carried that forward, and I'm working at my dream job. So it's super exciting.
So here are just some photos of us when we were students on our robotics teams. Sarah even did FLL, which I think is pretty neat, because I'm just a little jealous that I didn't get to do FLL when I was in elementary school, middle school. That's about the age for FLL. But you see me in the middle. I started a robotics team in my high school, but then they retired. So I joined 3309, the Firebots. And then being on the Firebots actually helped me get into Berkeley because we won the Chairman's Award at the Los Angeles Regional in 2016. I will never forget that. Winning a Chairman's Award is so cool. And part of the reason why I am excited to give this presentation, because I really believe that being competitive in awards and just being able to tell your team's story is one of the most powerful things about being on robotics, if not as if not more powerful than building the robot itself. So just something to really keep in mind as we go through our intros, but I can pass it off to Sarah.
Yeah, as Megan said, I got my start in First Lego League. Well, I like to say I got my start before then. I was actually joke that I've been involved.
Oh no, I think we lost Sarah.
Okay, we'll wait for her to come back. But in the meantime, yeah, I got involved with FLL and then continued into FRC. And it's just been, yeah, first it's just been a big part of my life, obviously. But it's also exciting because I think a lot of the things we're going to talk about today are things that I was able to learn through first and able to learn about the concept of like, how do you create like a brand or a personal message, whether it be like talking to a judge about like the story and journey of how your robot was built, or, you know, crafting and putting that online on your website in a way that, you know, judges can find, but also other team members or other interested parties can find. So there's lots of different ways that these messages can permeate and go throughout different parts of your life. And it all kind of starts with just like, why are you just understanding like what is the motivation, what's the story you want to tell about why you're involved with the robotics.
Sarah, are you back?
I am. I'm on my phone now using cellular data, so hopefully this won't cut out on us.
Awesome. But you can just give us your intro again because we didn't catch it.
All right. So I'm not sure where it cut off, so I'll just start from the beginning here. I did do First Lego League. I started in that program when I was about 10. But even before that, I was around first. My mom actually mentored a team when she was pregnant with me. So I like to joke that I've been involved with the program since I was -4 months old. And, you know, First Lego League really changed my life, probably more than even first robotics competition did. I really loved the research project in FLL, and we got to do some pretty amazing stuff there. We proposed legislation and got it past our House States of Representatives. We had multiple provisional patents. We got to meet with amazing companies. We were working with World Vision. And those experiences really shaped me and showed me from an early age that you can use technology to make a really big difference in the world and have a big impact. And that's kind of what set me up for the rest of my career so far. And that's why I think that all of this other stuff in first, besides the robot, is just so important.
Yeah, I think Sarah gives us a really good segue into some questions that we were going to start with because, like she mentioned, it's so important to be able to share why you're doing what you're doing and thinking about what mediums you do that with, whether it's like your state of representatives, whether it's your website, whether it's social media, no matter what you find, it's going to be important to share what you're doing and why. So we're just going to talk about your team's brand, and what we mean by that is how your team is perceived, and what you use, like in terms of images, colors, logos, to share that. It's perception, so that those two go hand in hand, and the role of technology. So how could you use your website, social media, or even stuff at competitions to share that? So if anybody has anything like they would like to add, this is also a good opportunity.
Also, yeah, I think, you know, brand is a lot of the things that Megan talked about, and it can be so much more. It's, you know, what does your team stand for, and how do you want to be perceived? And not in a superficial way, right? But in a really deep way of what are your core beliefs, right? Do you want to be the team that builds fantastic robots? And there's nothing wrong with going down that path and being that team. Or do you want to be the team that is known for really working hard to mentor others or to go and start other teams? So it's about also drilling into who are you? That way you can show others that.
Yeah, that's a really succinct way of putting it, Sarah. And I think Melissa also had something.
Yeah, I just to plus one what both you, Megan, and Sarah have said. I think that's where it all starts. I think it's really easy to just be like, oh, oh my goodness, we're a team right now. And, there's a new social media that's out there. Like, for instance, TikTok's made a huge emergence in the past months and like, even a year. But I think instead of just being like, oh, let's just dive in because we need to sign up and have this for our team, think about like what kind of message or what kind of purpose do you want the technology to serve for your team or for the brand or for the perception that you want your team to have. So it's just more thinking about using these tools and using social media because they are tools, using them to work for you versus you now having as a team. And when I say you, I mean the team as an entity, having another thing that feels like an obligation and just like you're just doing it because everyone's supposed to do it or everyone feel pressure to do it. Just being very deliberate is half the battle.
Yeah, really great way of summarizing just before we head into our questions. Like you can see on the slide, feel free to ask questions at slide.do using event code #Spartan series. So that way we know we can hear from you what you want to hear from us. But some questions that I had for Melissa and Sarah to start off are, what are some best practices teams can use to make social media work for them?
Do you want to start, Melissa?
Sure. I think the number one best practice is like I kind of like mentioned a little bit, but just being deliberate about it and being finding a way to make it sustainable. I think back to when I was in high school. I was really excited to like get our team. This was back before a lot of the social medias that are being used now exist. But at that point, it was like Blogspot and Blogger. Like those are the big like online presences for teams. So I was like really determined that we were going to have a team blog and like update every meeting and just put everything online. And it was a lot of fun to do, but also it was like a lot of work. And it was just like kind of like a passion project of mine. And it wasn't very sustainable. So I think one of the best practices that I find is just find something that can be sustainable and done by multiple team members and also just multiple parts and aspects of the team. So not just like one person who's just like off in the corner having this duty, unless if someone's really passionate about it, they should do it. But more about like, oh, like maybe we can do like a weekly post on something, or maybe like a monthly series, or even just sharing like non-robotics things, but just other tech things and you're like just interesting things that for the team. That way you can kind of use social media as a way to establish the team's presence or knowledge about their role. And I think that's also a way to keep it active in the off season as well. So just finding a way to make it sustainable and in a lightweight but ongoing way is more important than maybe having a deep dive of every single meeting hosted in a way that is not easy to maintain.
So I am very much an engineer at heart, and I engineer lots of situations in life by going through that same process you would go through as you build the robot. So just like you want to prototype and then you want to test it and you want to iterate, I think you can actually do the exact same thing with your social media strategy. Put a post out there and then look at the analytics. See, did it go well, right? Facebook and Instagram both provide great tools, and YouTube as well. Like pretty much every social media platform, you can see how many people saw it, how did they engage with it, did it get likes or comments or shares, and then put something up that's a little bit different and see if it did better, did it do worse, and keep going through that process. There's some tried and truisms, like it's going to do better if it has a photo, but how do you make that photo engaging? The other thing is figure out what your brand is on social media, and that can be a little distinct from your team brand, right? Are you putting up funny posts? Are you using it more for updates for parents? Or are you using it as a way to engage with the broader FIRST community or your local community? So figure out what your niche is on social media and then really step into that, and then use that engineering process to iterate over how you can get better.
I think you both gave really tangible tools to make your team's brand executed well, just because it can be hard to know what to post and when. I also just want to point out that Chief Delphi, even it's not like, Facebook or Instagram, it's still like basically a networking site for robotics teams. And with that in mind, just be careful about the things you post on Sheep, because people will make assumptions, and those do reflect your team, even if you don't think they don't. So it's just something to be aware of, that it's maybe outside of like, oh, we're doing a cool outreach thing, let me share it here. But just posting things consistently that represent you well are really important. But I think also, talking to Sarah's point, like, you kind of reminded me of 254, like their branding on social media is kind of funny. Like, they post all these really entertaining sort of things. But at competitions, right, you don't get to see that. Like, events, they're like a fine-tuned race car machine, you know, 3-time world champion. But their brand on social media is like almost the complete opposite of that. So I just thought it was pretty entertaining. And what you said reminded me of that. But how, I guess the next question we have is, how do we think teams can come up with their brand, and why is this something we think that is important?
Sarah, you go first.
All right. So going in the Wayback Machine for a minute, you know, when we started 3132, it became very obvious that as the first Australian team, the brand should be Australia. And so we went with that and we ran with that. But I think the reason that it worked so well for us is, well, two things. The first is it was something that was unique in the community, right? There's already a Cheesy Poofs. There are, I think it's something like half a dozen Spartan Roboticses. So that's not unique in the community. You want to find something that is going to make you stand out. There's a great post that the folks in Michigan did. They put together a video, and it's really hard to find. It's only on Facebook, but I recommend trying to find it. And it was about team names and how there's something like 20 teams named Eagle Robotics, right? So that doesn't really stand out to you. What are the teams you really remember their name and their brand? It's the Cheesy Poofs, it's the Holy Cows, it's Exploding Bacon, right? And it's not because those teams are in the Hall of Fame, it's because they have names that they just stick in your head, right? The Boba Bots, that's one here in California, a local team that everyone remembers because it's something that everyone loves boba. So of course you're going to remember their team name. So try and find something that's unique and is really going to make you stand out. The second thing that I think really helped with 3132's branding was those little clippy koalas. I can see
I got one of those.
Nodding.
I got one of those, yeah.
Everyone in the first community, you know, knows about those little clippy koalas pretty much. I think there was one year at championship, we gave out 5,000 of them. Like, they're just everywhere. And because of that, when you see a koala, you think of 3132. That became actually a really, really big part of our brand, was those little koalas. And again, it goes back to that something unique, right? It was something no one else was giving out. And so it became a more wanted commodity because it was unique.
Definitely.
Yeah. To Sarah's point, yeah, just I think kind of just sitting down and just think of it as a fun exercise, just like any other part of robotics should be. Just kind of like think about what I think naming of a team is probably not something that a lot of teams have, or a lot of students have say in, unless you're like a brand new rookie team, in which case congrats for listening to Spartan series right now. But I think that it's just more like kind of thinking it's never too late to just sit down and just reevaluate and just go back to the drawing board and think about what are our team's like ethics and values and like kind of the morals that we stand by, and like Megan was alluding to earlier, like what do you want to be known for? And then just kind of like extrapolate from there. Like putting that on a website or putting that on somewhere that people can find is important. Bringing that up when you're like crafting awards documentation is really good. And then yeah, making it so that, you know, you carry forward what it is. Like if you want to be known for the team that like can always build, like then maybe think of like, or maybe always be able to be there tech wise, like thinking of ways to come up with giveaways or reminders, or like ways to advertise that sentiment or you know, credo that you guys want to be known for at competition. I think that's important. So I I always laugh at myself because I never remember the team numbers, but there's a team, is it the Citrus Circuits? Yeah, the Citrus Circuits in Cali, and they're known for like, they have like the citrus service, I think, and they go around and they
Yeah.
help other teams. Yeah, and they're known for that, and that's what they became known for. They have like, separate from their robot team, they have a team that goes around and just helps other robots at competition, and that's something that they've now become known for, and they really leaned into that. They advertise that to other teams at competition. They advertise it to teams before competition. They like really like made that part of their brand, and now they're known for that. And I mean, they've also like won awards for it, and like, you know, it's really become a model that other teams emulate. And I think that's just really interesting, because that's something that, it wasn't like someone created the team and it's just like, oh, we're also going to create this. It's like they decided that, oh, this is what we're really good at, so we're going to lean into this. So I think it's just more like for teams who are thinking about how they want to brand themselves, just think about what are you good at, what do you want to be good at, and then just kind of lean into that, and making sure that you're advertising that everywhere, online, in person, at competitions, and just iterating on making that better.
So I think there's another really important point to what you just said, Melissa, which is that they've created this brand for one of their projects, right? So like, you not only knew that they were 1678 Citrus Circuits, but you knew the name of the program was Citrus Service. And it's got that kind of catchy name, and you remember it, and you remember the shirts they wear, and then you can connect it to what they do. And so I think that, you know, this brand within a brand is also super important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. 9 I guess relating it back to 971 specifically, because, you know, Spartan Robotics is like, oh, it's like an okay name. We go by our number as well, so that's just something we keep in mind. But part of the reason I joined 971 was because I was so attracted to the brand. Like, whoa, we're gonna build these like crazy robots that do all this like flipping and spinning, and like, what is that? And that's kind of the 971 brand of like going above and beyond. And even what you decide your brand to be can be very attractive to people joining. So like 254, sleek, competitive, elegant, like the best of the best, like that's probably how I would sum up their brand. Or maybe even like Thunder Down Under, like first everywhere. Is that how it went, Sarah?
It's done for everyone everywhere. Yeah.
Yes. And like, even just being able to nail it down to 2 to 3 words, and talking to as many people on your team as possible about, you know, what do you think of when you think of our team? And like, why are you joining? And asking yourselves those questions can really help you decide what you want your brand to be, because it's going to be different for each team. And no matter what you do, as long as it's like wholesome and in the pursuit of like first mission, it's going to be awesome. So that's just my words of wisdom to you. And I guess to go in.
Hold on, just one quick follow-up on that. Sarah, you mentioned this, and Megan, you alluded to it, but there's something to be said about like the presence and like the people being able to recognize your team, based on like, you know, the way your robot's performing, but also just like, there's also just physical recognizing. So like 971, yeah, Spartan maybe is like being used by lots of different teams, but the 971 has these very bold yellow gold, like it's like a gold
shirt. It's like goldenrod. It's called
of course neither of us are wearing one on camera right now, but like there's just like it's like goldenrod, it's like this goldenrod yellow that is so distinct, and whenever they like, they're very easy to spot in a crowd, to the point where I have associated that color with Spartan Robotics. And whenever I go to other competitions, if I see like, if I see that color, I assume it's 971. And I actually had that mistake a few times when I was like at competitions where 971 wasn't there and other teams had that color. And I was like, oh wait, no, it's not the Spartans. But it's just, they like it, their presence, it's so bold, and it's so like the reputation of the team is, if you have a problem, you can go to someone in one of those yellow shirts and they will get you help. And I think that's something that, so it's like a physical manifestation of like the presence of this team, but then also like matching that to the reputation has made it so that's very distinctive. Similarly, coming from Florida, there's the pink team 233 down there. They were one of the first teams back in the day to have pink shirts, and that's why they're like their team is called the pink team. Until this day, like lots of other teams have pink now because they realize like pink stands out and there's lots of pink team. It's a very distinctive color and fun stories, but there will always be one pink team, and it's 233 with their pink shirts. And it's just kind of interesting how pervasive these types of like branding, team branding can be. So just one of those things to think about. It doesn't have to be complicated. It can just be literally a color, but that can become like part of the story.
I totally agree. I think the other thing that's really unique about the 971 brand is the robots on the shirts, right? That is a bit of a niche area to always have that year's robot on the shirt. And it's something that people know the team for. And I mean, everyone wants to get this year's 971 shirt. And, you know, if there's a particularly cool robot or one that does really well, like that's the one everyone wants that year because you know you're only going to get it that one season. So that's kind of one of the areas where we've found that niche as well.
Definitely. But it's really, we could go on and on about 971 because that's how much we appreciate the team. But I guess to move on, how can teams create content that is engaging, but also perceived to be part of that team's identity? So like how do you balance, you know, doing cool things, but making sure that that's part of your team's mission? Sarah, this might be something I think you might have a really good answer for, just because you've been part of so many different projects, like just across different teams themselves. And I don't know what you've found as like a true north.
Yeah, I think it comes back to that. It's the same thing over and over again. We're really going to drive home this point of finding who your team is, you know, and then just being true to that. So are you the team that really focuses on mentoring the students within your own team and turning them into amazing engineers? Or are you going to be the team that really wants to go and figure out how to do first in low income communities, or make it more accessible for girls, or anything, right? The sky is the limit when it comes to FIRST and STEM and what the opportunities are out there. So I think it's about sitting down as a team and really figuring out what your mission is. You know, there's, especially in the chairman's and non-robot space, I think there's this tendency to say, oh, well, you know, 1902 won the chairman's award this past year, and they had that amazing I First Like a Girl program, and we need to go do something with girls. Well, is that who your team is? I mean, if you're an all boys team, maybe that's not the best space for you to be looking in. Just because it worked for them doesn't mean it's going to work for you. You need to figure out, you know, who are you and what are you passionate about, and then go and really own that space and be the best team in that area.
Yeah, plus one what Sarah said, and to Megan's question about how do you create content around that, once you figure out what your mission or drive or interest is going to be, then just continue posting, sharing, engaging with that area. So Sarah mentioned 1902's First Like a Girl. Like they did a lot of like interviews with like politicians to try to get funding for improving like like representation in different areas in STEM. And they started lots of teams, worked with Girl Scouts and all these different things. So they took that beyond just like, oh, this is going to be a cool video series, and they applied it in lots of different areas and continued sharing that message. And it doesn't have to be a huge thing. Like if you want to be the team that's known for being really like creative robots, for instance, like you always think crazy things outside of the box, or like cutting edge things, then engage with other things outside of just FIRST Robotics. Like every day there's cool things online that are popping up of like someone, especially on YouTube and Reddit and other like sources of just like, oh, this person created this cool thing. Like, you know, I saw this one the other day of like this Lego, it was like a Lego submarine of this person who created like using Legos and underwater like Tupperware container, and they created like a submarine and they were able to drive around in their pool, and it was just a YouTube video. But just being able to like share that and comment on it and be like, oh yeah, we use those motors on our robot, or oh, that's super cool, clever how they like seal the you know, use magnets so you didn't need to bore a hole inside of the Tupperware container, stuff like that. Like all you have to do is share things like that. And that's like kind of fun because now people will engage with you because, oh, this is that team that shares cool tidbits about topic X. It might be getting increasing representation in STEM. It might be clever robotics topics. It might be, giving back or like creating resources. It might be all of the above. It's just kind of like just finding ways to share and engage outside of just the robot. Of course, the robot is part of it as well. But whatever the message is, just finding ways to engage with that ongoing.
Right. I think making your brand as least nebulous as possible. I know that's like a really complicated way of saying like you have this like fuzzy image in your head of like, oh, this is what my team means. But once you start doing things and like doing outreach or making posts on social media or even just little marketing tactics or whatever, those are going to really make your brand tangible. So like 3132 and the koalas, right? Like you think 3132 Australia, but the koalas like really bridge it together because now it's like this physical manifestation of the team itself. And so whether it's like doing outreach or passing out things at competition, they're just little things, even little things you can do that will make sure that your brand image and your outreach go hand in hand.
On a super practical level, real quick, I forgot to mention this one. For creating content, I highly recommend Canva, canva.com. It's an Australian startup. It's free and they've got amazing templates and it's super easy to get started there. I love it so much. So highly recommend.
Yes. Using whatever tools you have possible to make materials that look professional is really helpful. Like even just making little templates can be great. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the should nots. What teams shouldn't teams do when thinking about an online presence or brand?
I think this is, and actually it's, I will just say, all the advice we're giving today applies outside of robotics. It applies to just personal online branding and just like social media usage in your personal life, or even professional life, depending on what you're doing. So that kind of, my do nots relate to that too. I don't think that, I think teams should not be necessarily engaging with, maybe it's hard to put this, but okay, just think about pass the grandma test, right? Like proper language should probably always be associated with anything in a team setting. Remember, anything that's linked to the team can be looked and will be looked at and reviewed, especially if you're going up for awards considerations. And not even just for awards, but like potential members, potential sponsors. These are all very important things that people are going to look at because people want to know who they're going to be associated with. So it's fine if you have a personal account that's not like in any way linked to the team account and you're posting memes that are, maybe edgy or inappropriate for like a work setting. But if it's linked to the team account or linked to the team name, it should be appropriate or it should be something relevant. You'll see this on Twitter a lot. A lot of people say like, my views are my own, etc. But even then, to that point, like you still need to, like, if you think about robotics as being like a job, like your team is like an employer, then you are representing that employer whenever people see you, which is, Megan alluded to this earlier with Chief Delphi. If you go on Chief Delphi and you go on some rant about how you don't care about like, some topic or completely bashing someone's like robot or something, like that doesn't look good on the team because you probably have the team linked to your name and people are going to go through and be like, who is this person? Oh, wow. I can't believe that team would allow this person on their team. Like, or like, who is like, what are like, I can't believe they stand for that or allow this to happen. So it's just more of like, you need to think very carefully if it's going to be posted in any way associated with the team that needs to be appropriate and something that it would be okay that if and when it gets traced back to the team, that you're okay, the team is okay standing behind that.
Sarah, do you have any do nots?
Don'ts aren't so much harder than do's. You want to I totally agree with everything Melissa said. I'm going to go in a slightly different direction because I think she said that so well. I can't add anything to it. And that is, there's this saying in verse, steal from the best, invent the rest. And I believe in that very fully. But I think the important thing to not forget is the invent the rest, right? It's great to look at the cheesy poofs and their social media strategy, or 3132 and their outreach, and just go after that. But it's really important to look at, I think, how they do it instead of what they're doing. And that how is what you should be looking at and then doing in your own unique way and spin.
So don't just steal someone's idea.
Yeah, don't just steal from the best. You gotta invent the rest.
Yeah.
I would also tell people, I guess this is not like a shouldn't, but just to be as authentic as possible. Like, it really does come across on social media if it seems like your team's trying to fake something, or if it's not like that big of a deal. You just want to be as real as you can. I wouldn't like try and pose certain situations. Like, it just depends, but the more content you have that's like real and true, is what people are going to gravitate towards. So just, I guess the should not in that is like, don't try and be fake. Don't try and be something you're not. Just be your team, because that's what people ultimately want to hear from. Okay. And then another question we had is, how can a team develop a brand or presence in a maintainable and scalable way?
So I think the first step is to start small, right? If you can constantly make one tiny step forward, you'll end up miles ahead if you just try and go for the whole thing and you fall short. So, I think 3132's brand guides was 4 bullet points. It doesn't have to be crazy complicated to get started, right? And that can take you actually quite a ways in having that brand. So just figure out what's one small step you can make this year, and just focus on making that step.
Yeah. Plus one, I use that term a lot. Plus one to what Sarah said. I think picking one thing and kind of leaning into that. So Sarah said start small. So, and one way of starting small is just picking one thing. Let's say it's Twitter. Twitter's easy. Used to be 140, now it's 280 characters. They call it a micro blogging site because these are meant to be micro blogs. It's easy. You put in a link, add some commentary, and that's an update. That's a post. Something that's if you pick one medium, it could be Instagram. Let's say it's like a photo, and just add a quick caption, and that could be something that can be updated regularly, whether it be linking over to new things, updates about the team. Just pick one thing and kind of like really own it, really lean into it, and then maybe eventually you start posting in multiple ways, like cross posting or having it automate in one way. So like if you post in one place, it would also post in the other, like just be smart about like picking one thing and kind of like figuring out what works. Is it like posting daily? Is it posting weekly? Is it only posting during the season? I don't know, maybe a monthly update linked to like a bigger post of like updates from the past month or something. Just find something small and find a way to make it sustainable, because brands grow because people know that they can rely on it. They know what to expect. Think about like YouTubers. I used to work at YouTube, so I have a lot of insight into how creators who become big on YouTube, how they got there. So it's not just like I think you can always think of like a viral video, right? One viral video that got exploded, has millions of views, and it's like, oh, cool, that was funny, that's really great. But that person never established a brand. It's just like that one video, and that's all they did, and that's done. But for the ones a lot of the YouTubers that are really famous or really good, they established a pattern and they built that over years. They post like Tuesdays and Thursdays, and their videos are going to be around like 10 minutes. And as it's going to typically be this kind of style. And then they grow their audience because the audience knows what to expect. And over time, you look back at them, it's like, oh, wow, now you have a lot of followers and a huge brand that has been built. So like think about your team in that way, figure out what is a realistic cadence, what is what are the types of things you want to post, and then just keep doing it. it might be small, it might be like not that like a huge engagement, but over time, especially as the habit is formed, the brand will become known, it will become its own living entity, and then that becomes a big boost for the team to refer to for engaging with sponsors, engaging with judges, engaging with other teams, engaging with new members, lots of different ways that can become benefit. So just start small and keep at it.
Yeah, I really second that idea of just like building off of what you know and not taking on too much. I do this all the time where like I'll have like this really big idea and I'll just like, but then miss all the intermediary steps, but those are like the foundation for what you want to do. And I guess also to add onto what Melissa and Sarah were saying, you can also recruit people. There's so many people that you know or that are connected to you who want to help your robotics team. They want to help like your parents, or uncles, aunts, neighbors, anybody close to you. This is a really good way to help the team. Like there are minimal barriers to entry. You don't need to have any robotics experience. All you need to do is to be able to have a computer and to read and to write. And even that simple, even it sounds simple, but having can make a huge difference. And just having somebody who wants to dedicate their time but doesn't know how, this can be a really great way for them to help out. Is like, can you help us create our brand? Can you help us post on social media? Can you help us craft this messages? Because I bet, we all have really busy schedules and we're all trying to do what's best for our team. And like, we all know social media is important, but it can be low on the priority list if you have an outreach event coming up or if you have a robot to build. Totally understandable. But if you need more resources, just like look at your team parent pool, your volunteer pool, and they can be really good ways for you to start with something. Do we have any questions from the Slido? We have about 15 minutes left.
We don't currently have any questions, but hopefully people will add some in case you have any questions out there.
We're just being so thorough, they don't have any. But anybody have anything else that they think we missed from these questions?
I think we've mentioned a lot of really good examples of branding, but any other favorite examples that you've come across in the years that you've been involved at first of like good team branding?
I really like this team in LA called Team 4. In the pits, they go 1, 2, Team 4. And like, that's what I remember them for.
That's awesome.
The first team I can really remember is Mo 365, and they're bright green. And as you saw earlier with the photos, my FLL team's color was bright green. And so we went to them, and little did we know they had just entered the Hall of Fame the previous year. So everyone was going to them. And they were just so nice to us. And they gave us these shoelaces that were bright green. And just the memory has stuck with me. And I just have the highest opinion of them all the time because they were bright green and nice.
I really like 148. They're very edgy. They're all black everything, and their robots are so sleek. And I like this like Darth Vader, Batman sort of like kind of vibe. I can't really describe it too well, but I hope my like body motions did it.
And for the team that I'm like proudest of their team name, because there's only one team that was going to get the opportunity to do this and they nailed it. It's 2468 with Team Appreciate. Like they got that one.
It's
on point.
So perfect. There's this one team, I think they're out of Georgia. They're called Robots Garage. They would used to come down to the Orlando Regional back in the day, but their uniforms are their whole thing is that like you could build like they're like a robot like a car garage kind of. So all of their uniforms are kind of like plaid shirts and like overalls kind of, and then like in a way that like it looks like they're like a team of mechanics walking around the pits and stuff. And it's just cool. I remember just that being so distinct, and they were like, yeah, we're the Robots Garage, and I'm like, that's so cool. I like that a lot.
Another one that always stands out to me is 359. the Hawaiian kids and their Hawaiian
Oh,
shirts and the macadamia nuts. Like they do
oh.
that really well, and just everyone, they've got the lays and the macadamia nuts.
Oh, so we have a question in the Slido. Do you or did your teams have designated people for social media, or how was that work delegated?
On 971, we have a team parent who has access to all of the handles, and she posts the majority, but other mentors and students can post there if there's something going on. When I was a student on 3309, I was kind of in charge of it a little bit, but the same general structure is there. Usually there is like some sort of adult who's like the admin, and then students and other mentors post on it when they need to.
Yeah, on 3132 at the end there, we had a Slack channel, and anyone could send a message to the Slack channel, and then I would post it on Facebook. And Melissa talked about automated systems go from Facebook to Instagram. I always joked we had one. It was called Mel. Mel was another mentor on the team, and she would just put all the posts up on Instagram for us. So it seemed automated to everyone else, but she would always do it.
My team in high school, 1251, by the way, they still exist, the Tech Tigers. When I was on the team, I was just kind of the social media person because I enjoyed doing it, and I was also like on the drive team, so I'd be able to do like cool like inside the pit, like from the field, because we were doing pretty well at that point, so it was like kind of like a fun like let's see inside the winning alliance like type thing. But since then, but to the what this person the question's alluding to, it was a lot of work to like kind of try to keep that up while also doing other things on the team. I definitely think that it comes down to what works best for the team. I think that if having a dedicated person who's just like their job is like kind of like the social role, then like yeah, make it a cool role. Make them like let this person have like like maybe a cool camera, or like have like maybe get like exclusives for lack of a better term, like if you think of them like as an investigative journalist, but for the team, let them get like access to cool things, and like let them own that area and have the creativity, and then yeah, hopefully loop in other people as well. Like you can imagine it, again, if you're thinking of it like a newspaper like model, like you might have a guest posts, or other people posting periodically. But yeah, I think it's just more important about having like kind of a general arc or story, or message, and then yeah, maybe having one or a few people who kind of own that area, but then also have input from the rest of the team. I think that's the easiest way to kind of hopefully make it so it's not just one person owning everything, but also so that it feels cohesive.
Yeah.
No other questions on the Slido at the moment, but I guess any final thoughts? I guess we can end a little bit early, but
The skills you learn about being able to tell a cohesive story will make your brand, and those are going to be the skills that set you apart from other people. Like the better that you can narrate what you're about and what your team is about, though that ability is like it's probably the most powerful thing I've ever like witnessed on a robotics team, even beyond being an engineer, just because if you can't tell it and if you can't make it impactful to people, then no one's gonna listen. So making your brand is about making people listen. And in today's day and age where we just like scroll through things and they pass us by, the more that you can make your content unique and the more that you can make your content about your mission, the better it's going to be for you and the people receiving it. So I just wish you viewers the best of luck, because being on a robotics team is super cool, and we all have a fantastic privilege to do something really awesome. And that's a story that deserves to be shared.
I think my biggest takeaway would just be, yeah, just find a way to, it should be fun. Like it should not feel like work at the end of the day. Like if it's not like enjoyable to do this, to engage with social media and like find ways to do this, then don't do it. I mean, just find another way to tell your team story. It shouldn't be mandatory. I think it is important to have an online presence as a team in the 21st century, but it could just be as simple as having like a static web page that's just like here's some information about where we are and here's a way to contact us, and you could leave it at that. But if you do engage with other ways, just be smart about it and just find ways to, yeah, keep it fun and light and hopefully sustainable.
Agree totally with everything you both said. I think one of the things you said a lot, so I'll just reiterate it one more time, is it's really important to figure out who you are as a team and then portray that and be authentic to yourself. Right? You don't want to be that Instagram influencer that is obviously a product promo. You want to be really genuine and come across that way.
We have a question on the Slido. This is actually a fun one. Other than color, have you seen any cool ways to incorporate your team brand on your robot?
Oh, our bumpers. The 971 bumpers you can see in that font is like the only place we use that font. I mean, this is bad branding because it should be really cohesive, but I do like that, like the one time we use the special font is on the bumpers.
One example I've seen is there's this team. They're called Team Bread, BREAD, and
yeah, 5940.
Yeah, okay, 5940. See, I don't remember numbers, but Team Bread. And bread is an acronym for something. I can't remember. They always like say it at competition, but it's BREAD. And every year their robot is named a different kind of bread. So I remember when I started noticing that it was like focaccia, and then they had ciabatta.
Yeah.
And then like they just had every year their robot is named a different kind of bread. And I just think that's so clever because it's not something that, I mean, they could very easily have found other ways to name the robots, or even maybe not even had names on their robots, but they tied it into their to the team name or the team acronym Bread. And I just thought it was so clever, because now I will always be looking out for this team to find out what bread is their robot this year, so I don't know, there are lots of different ways you can try to approach that, yeah, without just color or even name.
Oh, in 2017, I was on 31-32 still, and that was the year with the rope that you would climb at the end of the match. And so we had about a dozen different signs we made, and we would attach them to the bottom of the robot at the end. And so that way, it would go up at the end, and then it would just be hanging there with this sign on it. And some of them were things that were meaningful to the team, some were inside jokes. So the Australian FTA is named Jerry Budd. He works at Andy Mark, and it's just become a running gag that every day is Jerry Budd's birthday. So everyone, you should go if you know Jerry and wish him happy birthday on Facebook today, tomorrow, the next day, whenever you feel like it. If you're watching this later, go wish Jerry a happy birthday. Or you could just post on the Andy Mark Facebook page. That would also be great. Anyway, one of the signs said, "Happy birthday, Jerry." It was just fun stuff that kind of added to the brand, and it was on the robot, but wasn't necessarily just because of the color.
Cool. Okay. I think that's it for now. Thanks so much for tuning in, and hopefully this was useful to everyone listening in. We have one more day of Spartan series left. It's going to be actually Saturday. Tomorrow's a break. It's going to be with Austin Shu, and he's going to be walking through some software stuff. So hopefully you'll tune in, and hopefully the Spartan series has been informative and fun for everyone.